Well, hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and Kisma. Today's episode is entitled Choices and Consequences. Welcome to the Illumination Podcast with Nick and Kisma, bringing you ancient wisdom for modern day success so that you can sparkle just a little bit brighter each and every day. If what you hear speaks to your soul, go ahead and give us a rating and a review in iTunes. You can also find us on SoundCloud and Stitcher. And hey, if there's somebody in your life that you think would enjoy this podcast, go ahead and share it with them. Well, good evening, Nicholas.
Good evening, great and powerful Kisma.
Am I great and powerful?
You are indeed.
We are all great and powerful if we make great and powerful choices.
This is true.
This is true.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Interesting title.
Choices and consequences. Yeah. Strong decisions, strong actions.
Yes. Strong choices.
That's where this sprang from. So
yes.
I know that you had some thoughts about this originally with just basically starting off with regards to strong actions.
Yes, indeed. You know, I was on a call with a group that I'm in, and the mentor there talked about strong actions and weak actions, strong choices and weak choices. And I have to say, it's been kind of haunting me over the last couple of weeks because I'll find myself revisiting or looking at an action or a choice and be like, was that strong or was that weak? And really, it's very easy to determine, as we'll continue to talk about. It comes from, do you get the result that you want? But, you know, I this morning, to be perfectly honest, I woke up and I was like, oh, part of me just wants to go back to bed. And you know me, this doesn't happen very often. And I just decided, what do I do here? So I just sat down, I did my little channeling, my thing. I connected with Universal Mind, and it was like, boom, this massive direct download of making strong choices, taking strong actions. Because when we take strong actions, when we make strong choices, we actually create what we want in less time with less energy, and we end up having more space in our lives.
What do you define as a strong action?
Well, for me, a strong action, of course, because we're always teaching and talking about our higher selves and our full potential selves. So a strong action is something that is in alignment with our highest and best, something that is in alignment with the universal laws of truth or, you know, the divine laws of attraction. That to me is a strong action because we're using the law of choice and consequence, which is essentially karma, right? Cause and effect. We're using that as like this tailwind to propel us forward in what it is we want to create or have or see in our lives.
Do you think about, when you think about strong actions, like, I totally understand. I totally agree with that, obviously, and really understand like it's all in alignment, and it's that sense of alignment that creates the strength behind it and the strength within it.
Completely.
When we look at this in the context of choice and consequence, action, reaction, the law of karma, oftentimes I think about these actions or these choices that we make as planting seeds.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
Is that what you mean when you talk about the tailwind behind it, is planting seeds, or do you just mean that it's more just that it's in alignment with
I mean, I like what you're saying, but I mean, the universe is rapid, right? So those of you that love the law of attraction like I do, but you need to understand like there are these divine laws underneath it, but the universe is rapid. It wants to support us. Like whether you call it universe, spirit, God, Brahman, source, doesn't matter to me. But we have this support behind us, within us. And when we make these strong choices in alignment with our higher selves, in alignment with universal laws of truth, it really is like this, they're like, come on, let's go. And so I feel, and I've seen in my life as well as my students' lives, that when we're in that alignment, things come to us more rapidly. So rather than a seed, I see it as like just propelling us forward.
Like a jet propulsion.
Jet propulsion. Step on the gas.
Jet propelled Kisma, everybody. Look out. Well, I think one of the things that will help really for everybody to kind of look at this from some different angles in their own lives is just to look at it in different contexts. So when you think about a strong choice, let's say with regards to your health, what do you mean by that?
Well, just like anything, let me put it this way, if we're making weak choices, we're going to disperse our energy. We're going to create fatigue. We're going to create congestion. Our mind, like if you look at the mind, I was talking with a client today, and it's like when we're not in strong action and choice, there is this enrollment and unenrollment going on in our minds, in our own mental conversations. Like, should I do this or not? Should? It's like this back and forth ping pong ball in our mind, which in itself creates so much exhaustion and wastes so much time. So when you look at really successful people and really healthy people, they make decisive decisions that are in alignment with the result they want to get. So if someone wants to create better health, if someone wants to lose weight, if someone wants to be more fit, they are making decisions. I mean, look at our friend Jocko over there at the Jocko podcast. He's up every day at 4:30 working out, because that's his ethic. That's what he wants to create. So it's a very strong choice and a very strong decision.
Yeah,
if someone's
super
rolling
impressive.
around in bed until 9 or 10 a.m., guys, it's not going to happen. Chances are you're not going to get to that yoga class if you're still in bed at 10 a.m., unless it's a weekend. But making that decision, if you know that you want to be healthier, grabbing the next cupcake, as good as it is not a strong choice. Now, let me just say this, though, because I love to give everybody a little bright light. When your foundation is strong, when you've made a series of strong choices, when that's your rhythm, like when your rhythm is to always choose in alignment and have a really strong foundation emotionally, mentally, and physically, you can have that cupcake, right? You can have that glass of wine. It's not going to throw you for a loop because your foundation is solid.
Yeah. You've built up enough of a bank that you can sustain that, enough momentum that you can sustain it. And it's not like, I mean, I hope everybody gathers that from listening to us, is that it's not that we lead some super austere life, eating, what do they call it? The Indian khichdi. Khichdi, it's like that bland rice thing, no, we're not doing that every day.
There is chocolate in our world. There's wine in our world. But it's the same thing, just in life. If you are consistent with strong choices and actions and thoughts and beliefs, when something goes a little sideways, or say if you mess up something or whatever, your reboot, your reignition is so much faster and so much easier. It's like building up that karmic bank balance, right? So someone who's living in line with their soul purpose and their life purpose, and they're making decisions in alignment with source will, when something goes awry, just because life is what it is, you've got this higher karmic bank balance, so you actually recover faster.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I don't want to go too far off the rails on this, though. But one thing that makes me think of it, though, is it's really amazing how quickly a person, myself included, can spin out sometimes.
Oh, fast.
And I noticed that it's times that are often after a big high, where I've not I've gotten stoned or something, but where I've it's been a big rush or a really big effort and everything. And then it's it's so easy to just whoa, and then before I know it, it's hard, it's hard. So I don't know. I think I say that more than anything just to say that your actual momentum can be deceiving.
Yeah. That's correct.
And really and truly, when you have the true momentum behind it,
right,
you really don't spin out in that way, or you just you might do a little tail wiggle, but you're not going to go into a full on flat spin. And I think it's really humbling to see sometimes you get really inspired, you really go all out, and then you spin out from it.
Yeah,
and that to me is an indicator that the momentum was not really as strong as you might have thought. So all that just to say that consistent effort and really does yield that consistent momentum, which will yield consistent results as we move forward. So it's really staying true to that over a long period of time. It's not something that you build over a month, I mean, like you can build good momentum over a month, but even after that, 3 months, 6 months, a year down the line, when you truly ingrain those and are living those habits and making those consistent choices, man, that's real momentum.
It really is. You get the resultant effect. It's like you propel yourself further and faster and easier. I see a lot of people out there talking about flow and ease and space, spaciousness and grace. I'm like, dude, you got to take strong action if you want flow. You have to make strong decisions if you want ease and grace, because so many people are out there having this convoluted conversation in their mind of what to do and what not to do. And I just want space. You're not going to get spaciousness when you're confused in your mind.
Yeah. You just bring on something like really profound, though. It is that it takes that strength and conviction to maintain ease.
It really does. It seriously does.
Yeah. And it's that mental fortitude to stay on track.
Right.
Because that's where you actually create the ease. Wow, that's really,
it's
just kind of blew my mind.
Some of the best businesses in the world have systems, right? They're strong systems. They're systems in place. So when they have systems in place, there's ease, there's flow, there's income, there's growth. It's just like with our mental and emotional dispositions. When we have a system in place with how we act and how we choose, that's really strong. It creates momentum. It creates love and happiness and income. And your life elevates, your frequency elevates. You truly, truly rise. And you've got this, like we said, that little jet fuel right behind you, just moving you forward.
That's really profound. Now, I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit more about strong decisions with regards to wealth, prosperity, finances. Like how does it translate into that area of life?
Well, we can touch on some of those divine laws. I'm sure we'll be doing podcasts on that. But money, as we've talked about, money is a metric for one's own internal disposition. So as you know, Nick, and as many of our listeners know, because we teach it all the time, if your money is in chaos, there's chaotic energy within you. Right. So the whole world is this carbon copy of what's going on inside. So if you're looking to build wealth, there does need to be a consistency of strong choices. There needs to be the right use of money. And interestingly enough, the right use of money is not to hoard it, is not to put, ball and chain around, is not to fear loss. The right use of money is to let it flow to you and from you, to invest in your business, to invest in yourself, to invest it in accounts that actually earn interest. The right use of money will actually elevate your ability to attract more abundance.
That consistent flow is something that I think, man, like when you get it, like
when you get it and you want to hold on to it, that
yeah.
is still lack energy.
Oh, it's scary sometimes
scary.
to really let it flow. You see it coming, and I see that
let it flow
so many times where people get super stressed out because, maybe they're new in their business and they see the money coming in and then they see it going out just as fast. And it's like that kind of stressful startup phase of just seeing it flow like that. And that can really, I know it's freaked me out,
Yeah, I totally understand. But here's one example. I think everyone can relate to this. So a couple of new clients building businesses, and they're like, oh, well, I do PayPal because, Stripe or AuthorizeNet or some of those merchant processes, they take a percentage. I was like, wait a minute. And they were making it more difficult. They had to have checks sent in, or they had to do like a funky PayPal link. And I know many people use PayPal in their business, and that's fine, but PayPal is still going to take a percentage. When you have a company that is running your money, that makes you able to take in a transaction with ease, you better bless them and pay that fee. Don't shy away from it because you don't want to pay the fee, because in the long run, you're creating twice as much work. You're trying to get checks, you're calling people to get checks. This is the system of business. And so when people get freaked out over credit card charges, I know you want to keep it within a healthy limit. I'm like, no, this is the ability to run your business.
Yeah, you're purchasing.
You're purchasing someone to take a credit card, get it safely into your bank. Everything is secure. You're giving people, I don't know, it blows my mind when people just freak, when they don't want to do it. And they no, Maybe that's not the right use of money. They're allowing you to transact money. So use it. Like, be happy.
I think a lot of times we get bummed out around things like that and want to get cheap around it or really frugal, and there's nothing wrong with being frugal. Like I do see that, like,
It's an interesting word, frugal.
I'm not sure of the exact meaning of, so
I think it's an ugly word.
I'm not sure it's like the exact, what I'm saying is like, be smart with your money. Like,
yeah, smart and wise. Be wise with your money rather than frugal. I feel like it's going to say flugelhorn or something. Frugal's weird. Be wise with your money.
Are you going to look it up? I'm kind of curious myself exactly what it means. Like, I have an idea of what it means, but I don't know exactly
Keep talking.
what it means.
Let me look it up.
I will keep talking. But what I really mean by that is just that, like, you don't want to be silly about it and just throw your money everywhere. You want to get the best value for your money, and you want to be resourceful. Like, you really want to use what you have to the fullest. When we talk about resourcefulness, man, like, that is being resourceful in your money, being resourceful in your energy, being resourceful in everything that you have so that you really use it to its fullest. Absolutely. But at the same time, it's like, man, like, don't lose it, or get into that, scarcity mindset just because something charges you a certain percentage. Like, what's the big deal? That's the cost of doing business. Like, go for it.
Right. Exactly. I love it.
So let's see here. Oh, she looked it up. Frugal. Sparing or economical with regard to money or food. Simple and plain and costing little. Yeah, I don't think that's really what I was going.
Good.
Yeah, I love simple. A huge fan of simple. I'm not sure that is the exact word I was looking for there, but
wise with your money.
We all learned
wise
something
with your money,
today.
Wise with your food, wise with your love, wise with your thoughts. I mean, think about money just like your thought flow. Like, what are you putting out in your thought flow? What are you receiving from other people? And it's the same thing. When someone says something to you, you can elect to not accept it. That's a strong decision. Like, that's their gig. But when there's something triggered inside of you, it usually means there's something that is required to be cleared and resolved. Otherwise, you wouldn't take it personally, right? So all of these things are energetic metrics for who we are and how we live. And the stronger and the more present we are to decisions and actions and thoughts and words, the more space we have in our life, the greater success we have. And we'll just freaking be more happy because we're not in that little ping pong like tournament of thought flow inside our head, arguing back and forth of what we're supposed to do or not do.
Wow. Bringing it now into the area of relationships. What do you consider strong decisions within relationships?
Well, this is interesting. Strong decisions in relationships, because I'm thinking of our relationship. I think it's been strong because we've really followed principles that we learned in Vedanta, which is there are obligatory duties that one would do for one another, but there's not entanglement or codependency. So again, let me reverse engineer it like I like to do. Is a weak decision is one where you are reliant upon someone else to make you happy. Therefore, you're always doing stuff to make that person happy because they're in control of your happiness. That's just one big, fat, entangled, messy spider web. Not going to work, not strong, very, very weak.
Yeah. When I think about strength in the context of relationships, I really see it as that mental fortitude to get out of your own way, and be a loving partner and not make the relationship all about you.
Oh, that's good.
I mean, it's really tricky, but to really, and it's not to be totally other focused at your own expense. Like we'll get to that in self-expression, but in this, in a relationship, it's the attitude of service.
Attitude of service really, really works, but not, like you said, sacrifice.
Right. Yeah, the attitude of sacrifice, like martyring yourself.
Martyr is not going to work, people. Stop martyring.
Yeah.
And stop needing to be rescued. It just is unhealthy. It's going to create, so much exhaustion. And really, it's not going to, no happiness there.
No. But you said a word that I think, I'm not sure what people will think of it, to be honest. I know that I've thrown this word out there before, and sometimes people kind of freak out around it. They're like, what does that mean?
What word did I say?
It was obligatory.
Obligatory. Oh, like trust me, I'm not always doing the kitchen floors. I do like to wipe the floors because I like a really clean place. Obligatory, if we put that more in like karma, like after you, right? Like after you, or what is it that I can do to serve this relationship, to keep it elevated, to keep it healthy, to keep it happy? Because like you just said, if we just sat around and decided what we wanted without any consideration of the other human, it becomes two selfish, self-entitled humans without this beautiful circle of loving support and giving.
And you will have inevitably you will have a stronger personality who usurps the other. And that is to say that, one person is going to be strong and they're going to go their way. The other person won't stand up for themselves. And then they're going to be swept into that codependency of just like, oh, well, it's always on that person's terms until the weaker party has fed up. And then they just, and they, and then there's an argument and there's more conflict. And then, and then they kind of go to their corners. And that's actually the healthiest part of the relationship.
When they go to their corners?
Well, kind of, yeah. Because
time out, people.
The time out is where you actually regain your own sense of self and your own independence within the relationship. So I'm not saying it's healthy to always live in your own little corner, but that, when you're stuck in a lot of codependence and, constantly, trying to please one another in a certain way and do, then that really entangled, then actually when you separate and into your own corners, it's actually like the more healthy state of being. You just want to do it in a loving way. Like that's where that kind of gets lost.
Yeah, because it comes back to when something is triggering you or upsetting you in a relationship, you got to look at yourself first. Because if you look at yourself first, there's an 80% chance you will resolve that very, very quickly. And you'll learn something about yourself and the relationship will grow because of it. But when someone turns straight to blame, which is a weak action, I might add, blame is a very, very weak action. Oh, I can see it all over the political realm right now. It just creates more anger and more breakage and more resentment.
Yep. Blame, judgment.
Judgment, very weak.
Resentment.
Yeah, weak.
All of these.
I mean, something strong is to really have that extreme ownership of, well, what part did I play in this, if any? But at least the inquiry, right? Just to inquire about it.
When I think about real strength in relationships, what really comes to me is just that absolute conviction to hold a loving space and kindness no matter what. Regardless of what your external actions may reflect, but that internal, a loving kindness disposition.
Oh, you're such a divine lover.
Well, I just think that's important for relationships.
It is important. It's beautiful.
So now we talk about self-expression, like authentic expression. When you think about strong decisions in authentic expression, I don't know what you think of, but for me, the first thing that really pops to mind is just that commitment that it takes to be yourself in a world that is constantly telling you that you need to be something different. You need to be more this or more that so that you can be successful or so that you can be respected or so that you can be seen as smart or like whatever it is, like constantly, there's that train of truth.
Oh, truth.
So that you can really assert your individuality in a way, in a really noisy world.
Yes. Yes.
A noisy and conflicted world at that.
The world is very conflicted.
I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think authentic self-expression is really important if it's done with kindness and compassion. So this word kindness can be, if the entire world were more kind, but yet still strong, still truthful, still in alignment with their beliefs, we'd be having so many different conversations. But people tend to get riled up at one another when someone says something that they disagree with. So when we can express what we believe, what we know to be our truth or the truth in the conversations, we see it, but do it with kindness. And I call it that neutral enlightenment. So we're not there to trigger someone, right? We're simply there to divinely express our thoughts.
That to me is the highest purpose of a human being. It's that authentic expression of who you are, your truth, your brilliance into the world, not into the void of some cave but really out into the world to impact
Right.
other people's lives,
Right.
and to create something beautiful with your very presence. That to me is
Exactly.
like authentic expression. And when I think about strong choices around that, it's the hard choice to follow your own inner guidance,
Right.
when you've got other voices yelling at you to do something different or to be something different.
Right. Exactly.
Authentic expression.
So important.
So what I hear here is that you mentioned something earlier that I thought was really interesting about how in a business, the strong systems is what creates that ease. And you kind of brushed on it, but I wanted to talk about it a little bit more, of how we're not talking about external systems necessarily here, although some of those can support you
Sure.
in your life. Like, say, getting out of bed.
Well, yeah.
No, but think about it. If you have an external system to help you get out of bed, like if you're that person who hits the snooze button 20 times, put that freaking clock across the room.
Yeah. Stop with the snooze. Just get out of bed.
That's an external system. But until you break that habit, you might need to do something like that.
Right.
I don't know if most people know, but you can actually program your brain to wake up at a certain time.
You can.
And it 100%, it really works.
Yeah.
Because
That's
it's
an
really
internal
extraordinary
system.
It's setting the external up so that it's more conducive for these choices. Put that glass of nice clean water next to your bed.
Right.
So that when you wake up in the morning, you have fresh water to rehydrate right away. Little things like that. We're talking about external systems just in your life. But I think what was most interesting to me is, and what we're really talking about, is the internal systems that we create for ourselves. And a lot of times people don't think that about as a system. They think about it as a mindset, or they think about it as something like that. But really how I see that is actually it's an energetic system that you use to keep yourself really congruent with those strong choices.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great way to look at it. I mean, it's like a grid, so it's like when I am working on someone or clearing them, I just see this grid, and the grid is shifting into perfection. So think about what is your perfect grid? What's your perfect system to run positive thought flow, to have high vibratory emotions, to stay inspired and inspire others?
Powerful. And another piece that I wanted to circle back to that you mentioned that I thought was also really interesting and really important for people is to recognize this conversation around enrollment.
Enrollment, in and out. Am I in? Am I out? It's exhausting.
And what people this is what I think anyway. I'm super curious to hear your thoughts, but how I think about it is that, and how I see it is that, you wind up, when you're in that in and out, you wind up with a foot in both.
Oh yeah.
In both decisions there, and you never really feel comfortable or confident in one or the other. Should I eat the donut or should I not eat the donut? And you kind of enroll yourself in the donut. Come on, it's just one donut. And then the other one is like, no, you had a donut yesterday.
So then you feel all guilty if you do eat the donut.
Right.
Instead of just saying, I'm going to eat the freaking donut and I'm going to love every bite.
Right. And that, to me, that does way less damage.
Way less damage.
So, but what's important about this is this conversation around enrollment. And it's like, there's no both in this one. This is an either or kind of conversation
really
where
is.
you are either enrolling yourself into a decision, into a strong decision, or you're unenrolling yourself from that strong decision.
Or unenrolling yourself happens to be the strong decision. Like, you choose. But there's something, I see it all the time. If someone's looking at, I want to do your manifesting course, or I want to do this. Oh, it's not the right time. I'm not sure. They say yes, and then they say no, and they're in and out. I'm like, dude, this is so exhausting. This is not helping you in any way get to a clear decision and understand why you made that decision, and do not let that decision be made out of fear or lack, because that is devastating.
Well, what happens, it is devastating. And what I see that happens when somebody makes a strong decision and then they unenroll themselves, what happens is they get into this space that's like, we call it the return to fine.
Yeah.
Got that from Nicola. She was the one.
Yeah.
Amazing marketing.
Nicola Moras.
She's awesome. Kick More Ass Morass, I believe is her roller derby
Used
name.
to be.
Yeah. But anyway, it's a return to find. So you make a strong choice and then you unenroll yourself
Yeah.
from it. You start to needle away. No, I can't afford that. I don't have the time for that. It won't work for me anyway. And then what happens in your mind is you justify yourself and back into your current circumstances,
Right.
which you were seeking to change in the first place. That's the whole reason that you made the strong choice.
Yeah.
Right. And then you get back into that fine. It's like, oh, it'll be fine the way it is.
Yeah.
Maybe someday
No.
something will change. I got news for you. And I'm just going to be really honest here, is that it's not going to change.
Unless you change your actions, it's not going to change.
It's not going to change. Unless you stay committed to those strong chases, you're going to keep going back to fine, and you're going to keep saying it's fine. And then it's going to be 10 years later.
Nick's looking really scary, FYI, for those of you that are listening.
I get fired up about it because it's just such a drag. I did it to myself, and I know how frustrating it can be. And I know how challenging it can be to stick with those strong choices.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you how much compassion I have for it, but at the end of the day,
It's not why we're here.
it's mediocrity.
Yeah.
It's a choice.
Yeah.
When you're unenrolling yourself from a strong decision that is aligned with your highest and
Right.
best, you're basically making a choice to stay in mediocrity.
It's not what we're here to do, people.
To me, that is just,
really good.
it's horribly unacceptable.
We're here to shift and elevate and move and groove and be strong.
Enrollment. You're either enrolling yourself in or you're enrolling yourself out of it.
Yeah, but be clear.
Got to be clear about it.
Cool. I love it. Strong choices, strong actions, strong thoughts, strong words, strong on the dance floor, whatever it is.
Enroll yourself in the strongest decisions possible,
You'll
everybody.
have so much more energy, so much more space, so much more love, more money, more everything. Just be strong, be decisive, and be clear.
You get to be you. And to
Yeah.
me, that's the ultimate freedom.
Right.
So let's, if you don't mind us kind of pivoting now to some questions.
We have a question.
We got a great question in.
Okay.
And I want to, definitely wanted to make sure that we included that.
Okay.
And the question is, Kisma, for one of the recent podcasts I listened to, what stood out was the mention of, quote unquote, the narrowing of one's field. It made a lot of sense to me and in my own life. Now, one thing I wanted to ask about is, how do you deal with people who don't have regular, quote unquote, minds? For example, one who is operating out of depression or loaded anxiety, one who might be dubbed with mental illness. That's a pretty interesting question.
It's a great question. Compassion. I think too, there's so many layers to this. I love that she put in quotes, regular minds. Like we tend to think in this society that a mind needs to think and be and do a certain way and operate a certain way. Where in fact, we're missing out on many young minds that are genius, that have talents and capabilities. And then we put these labels on them that are oftentimes heavy, as if something's wrong and something needs to be fixed. Now, having said that, there are people who are suffering from depression or what is labeled as a mental illness, and they do need attention, they do need care. So if someone is in your life with a lot of anxiety, let's look at that one, because there are a lot of people functioning with anxiety. Number one, have compassion. Number two, do not judge. And number three, lead by example. And cut your cords, be grounded, do everything you can to not take on their anxiety, and stay in your track, right? So the more that we keep our side of the train tracks clean and clear, the more we take care of ourselves, we're actually helping and supporting the people around us.
Yeah. If you look on our podcast page, so for this one, it would be illuminationacademy.net/INK052. When you look on the podcast page for this, you'll see an opt-in for some fundamental tools. And these are absolutely key. Why? Because when you're around that sort of energy, and to me, they differ in degrees, more than they do in kind. Anxiety built up over, a long period of time becomes really, really intense. It can become manic depressive, bipolar, and all sorts of different things. So, when it's not checked, or when it gets too intense, but you see a level of anxiety in virtually every human being that you meet.
Right.
And so the first and foremost is you got to keep yourself clean and clear from that. So that's what those tools are for.
Yeah.
Cord cutting is going to keep you disconnected or in a healthy way or staying out of that flow. And the grounding is going to keep you in your body.
Right.
Like you need to be in your body in order to deal with that.
Yeah.
But you did bring up something really interesting. I hope that covers that.
I just want to add one more thing.
Okay.
Don't assume something about another person if they're depressed or they're anxious or quote unquote mentally ill. Like I think oftentimes we turn our shoulder and we shun people where in fact, if we ask a few questions and just hold a space and share a few words, it could actually completely make their day.
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. You shun people or try to fix them.
Try to fix them. I mean, look at the story of Nikola Tesla, right? He was severely depressed. His field broke. He was in bed for months. And so many people just turned their back on him. And he had one friend, right, who was like, you got to get in your body. And he got him out moving and exercising. He really brought him back into his body. And then Tesla discovered the works of Swami Vivekananda and Vedanta and understood consciousness. He had new hope, right? He rose from just almost leaving the planet to having even more greatness in his mind.
We might not have AC,
exactly.
alternating current, if not for that human
right
who helped him get out and get back in his body.
Yeah.
So many times we just try to we want to fix, especially if it's somebody close to you, like they're depressed or they're feeling bad or they've got all this anxiety.
They just
you try
aren't
to
like
soothe
you.
them. You try to fix them and make them better and everything. I don't know, that's not my first go-to. My first go-to is to really just treat that human being exactly as they're showing up and letting it be okay for them to just be who they are in that moment.
Right.
And that always adds more ease around whatever conversation comes after that. Like maybe they want to make some changes. Maybe they're not happy. Maybe they just don't know how, but when you telling them what to do, the old saying goes, telling isn't selling. And when you're when you're dealing with somebody like that, you if you're having a proper enrollment conversation, you're enrolling them in positive, strong choices for themselves,
as best you can.
As best as you can, and just loving them every step of the way, like loving them to their best decision.
But I'll add one piece too. Loving them does not mean you need to be entangled in their lives. It doesn't mean rescuing. So be very, very clear. Like if there's someone in your life that you're feeling like you need to go rescue, it's not that.
Yes, please go back and reference our podcast. What was that one? Living in Love, the truth about living in love.
Yeah.
We did a podcast on love and relationships. It was really, really cool, actually. But another part I really wanted to just kind of wrap up with here is this, and she said, ha, when she quote unquote regular ha, right? And you brushed on it too, but I think it's really worth talking about is how we expect other people to think and act the way that we are, or the way that we've been brought up, or what we think is normal. And like you said, so many gifts and talents get suppressed.
Yeah.
And they're just not really taught how to express themselves in that way because they're just too busy having everybody try to teach them how to be normal.
Yeah.
And I just think that sucks.
Right.
We're over diagnosing, we're giving everybody a diagnosis. This is how you are. We're over medicating, like you need a pill for that. Like here's the pill for that.
We're the most highly over medicated society in the world.
And I think a huge portion of that would be totally unnecessary if we were taught to be truly authentic to ourselves first and to understand. Like one of my clients is in the UK actually has a learning center. So she does tutoring.
That's so cool.
And one of the things that we talked about that is so critical to her work is taking those kids and helping them to learn in their style. That's the reason that they're struggling at school, is because the school's trying to have them do it a certain way and learn a certain way, and it just ain't working.
Right.
So they bring them into their style. And these are the same kids who are diagnosed with all kinds of different things, yet they come in there, they learn their style, and all of a sudden they're an A student.
That's so cool.
Go figure.
Yeah, it's so cool.
I think there's an A student in every one of our listeners out there.
Yeah, you're all A's in our hearts.
Gold
people.
stars around, everybody.
Yeah, but I'm just going to say, I'm going to give Melissa a shout out. She's a regular listener and a member of our tribe, and she's awesome. So thanks for that question.
Very cool question.
And if any of you have questions, please email info@sourcemovement.com. And we so appreciate you for being here and listening. Share this podcast with someone you love who might benefit. And hey, give us a rating and review as it helps us get the message out there.
So appreciate everybody. Got to run. Have an awesome day. Peace.
Namaste.